The elevator of time. Ethan never should have taken the elevator that night. It was just another late shift, just another ride up to his apartment. But when the doors closed and the numbers began to change, reality itself seemed to twist. The elevator wasn't moving through space, it was moving through time, and once he realized what was happening, it was already too late. Ethan yawned as he stepped into the elevator, rubbing his eyes. The dim fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting a sickly glow on the metal walls. He pressed the button for the 14th floor and leaned against the railing, waiting for the slow ascent. The doors slid shut with a metallic groan, and the elevator lurched upward. He barely noticed at first, just another late-night ride after another exhausting day. But then something caught his eye. The floor numbers weren't changing normally. 10, 11, 12. A strange warmth spread through the air, thick and suffocating. The elevator hummed deeper, vibrating in a way it never had before. Ethan frowned, suddenly uneasy. The numbers continued to tick upward, too fast, too smooth. Then, with a sharp ding, the doors slid open. Ethan stepped forward and stopped cold. The hallway was wrong. The once clean floors were coated in dust and debris. The wallpaper peeled in long curling strips, revealing cracked plaster underneath. The air smelled of rot and decay. His heart pounded as he took a hesitant step forward. His apartment door was still there, but the number plate was rusted over. His breath quickened. What happened here? Had there been a fire? A flood? His hands trembled as he reached for the doorknob. It turned with a groan, the hinges shrieking in protest as he pushed the door open. Inside, the room was abandoned. The couch was nothing but a pile of stuffing and torn fabric. Mold crept up the walls in dark, spreading veins. A newspaper lay on the coffee table, the edges curled and yellowed. He snatched it up, his eyes darting to the date at the top. His stomach dropped. That wasn't possible, that was 20 years from now. The blood drained from his face. He stumbled back into the hallway, his breath coming in short, panicked gasps. The elevator doors were still open, as if waiting. He ran inside and slammed the button for the lobby. The moment the doors shut, the elevator dropped. The numbers ticked downward. 13, 12, 11. The air grew colder, his ears popped, his head swam. The moment the doors slid open, he knew something was wrong again. The lobby was different. The walls gleamed like they had just been polished. The front desk was manned by a younger receptionist, wearing an outdated uniform. People walked past in old-fashioned clothing. A man in a trench coat glanced at him, puzzled. Ethan turned toward the street. Outside, classic cars lined the curb, and a newspaper stand displayed the date. He felt like he was going to be sick. His hands shook as he backed into the elevator. The moment he pressed the buttons, the doors slammed shut. The elevator lurched violently. The walls warped, the air crackled. The sensation was worse than before, like he was being ripped apart. The panel flickered wildly. The numbers were out of order. Up meant forward, down meant back. He had no idea where he belonged anymore. The elevator plunged downward, too fast. The walls shivered, the buttons blinking like dying stars. 20, 15, 10, 5. The humming noise deepened into a low, resonant growl. The air was thick with something unnatural. Then silence. The doors slid open. Ethan wasn't in the building anymore. Outside was an endless void. The sky was black, the ground stretching into nothingness. In the distance, figures stood, watching, waiting. A voice whispered behind him. "You went too far, Ethan." He spun around. No one was there. The elevator doors were still open, revealing the black abyss beyond. He jabbed the buttons, desperate, but none of them responded. Then he heard footsteps approaching. Soft, measured, getting closer. His breath hitched. He turned slowly. The figures in the distance were moving toward him. The lights inside the elevator flickered. The walls began to dissolve like sand being blown away by an invisible wind. The control panel vanished. The figures drew nearer. He could make out faces now, twisted, warped versions of himself, versions that had never made it back. Ethan screamed. The lights went out. Would you press another button or accept your fate?